Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Trevor Grassi, and I'm here with two very good friends today to talk about a very important subject that we're all three very passionate about, which is the Gosford Glyphs in Australia, which are Egyptian hieroglyphs that are actually in Australia. And so they're very controversial. It's a very important site, and I have two people here who know a whole lot about it. And it's been very something I've been very passionate about myself for this whole time. But we have Vicki Burke, who is actually in Australia, lives in Australia, um, who's a good friend. I actually met up with Vicki in Egypt last year, and we had a great time. Went all over the plateau for a few days, and really talked a lot about what's going on in Australia. And then we also have Mohamed Ibrahim, who has done so much work to actually validate these hieroglyphs as an Egyptian archaeologist, Egyptologist, and guide. Muhammad has analyzed these hieroglyphs um, with our friend Yusuf Aliyan as well. There's some videos that you might have seen before, and has validated a lot of the linguistics of the hieroglyphs there to prove that these weren't fakes. Because obviously people want to say, no, the Egyptians never went to Australia. But all three of us here, we know that there's a lot of evidence proving that they did or had some contact. So first of all, I want to welcome you both here. Welcome, Vicky and Mohammed, and thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, Trevor.
yeah. At first, I wanted to just ask each of you to give a quick introduction and describe a little bit about how you got started in it and what led you specifically towards the Gosford glyphs and what got you interested in that and how your interest started with it. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll ask you to start, Mohammed, if you want to tell a little bit about that.
I work as a tour guide for more than 25 years now. A tour guide in Egypt is different from any other place. To become a tour guide in Egypt, you must have a university degree. You go to the School of Archaeology, or in my case, a school or academy for tourism to become a tour guide. But it means that you need to study everything about ancient Egypt. And I can add a little bit that the tour guide is like few more than or more than regular Egyptologist. If you study Egyptology, it means ancient Egypt only. But if you study as a tour guide, you study ancient Egypt, Greco-Roman Egypt, Coptic Egypt, Christian Egypt, Islamic Egypt, and also modern Egypt. Plus religion, plus art, plus ancient Egyptian language, which we call it mistakenly hieroglyphics. So I am in the field for 25 years, leading tours and expanding my information about ancient Egypt, visiting every place you can imagine in Egypt, from far north to far south, far east to far west, everywhere, all the tombs, temples. I was lucky to meet so many of the brilliant minds around the world, and they add to my knowledge. Engineers and geophysicists, geologists, artists, politicians also. So many different kinds of people with different knowledge who had passion for Egypt and the Egyptian history. Um, the I had the first time an idea about Gosford Glyphs. I think that was around 2012. Before that, I had no idea about it at all. And I didn't have any idea that there is glyphs outside Egypt that far. Yes, I maybe know that there was some glyphs. There is some glyphs in Sudan, in Saudi, in that nearby part of Middle East to Egypt. If they tell me in Libya, I wouldn't be surprised. Recently, we discovered a cartouche for Ramses III at Jordan, but that is not a surprise. We know there was connection, but to know that there is a text written in Australia, that was a surprise. And I was told that if there is a chance to have a quick look and give my opinion about its authenticity. I said, of course, and the moment I saw the writings, I I got this impression that it is real writings, real ancient Egyptian, because I was able to understand some of it immediately. By the way, it's not easy to read hieroglyphics. It needs someone who practice the language, this language, or reads the dictionary almost every day, because it is like mathematics. Hieroglyphics, of course, dead language. But the good thing, if you memorize many of these symbols, you will be able to understand some words, even if you don't know the whole word. If you got two, three samples, you can. So that's what happened to me. The moment I looked to the text, I found I can read some of it, even without being effort. And that for me was a very strong evidence. And I kept going on, and I translated the first part I was received from a friend from Australia. And then later they sent me like more than 500 photos, and I was like surprised that it's a big story. So it's not a bunch of ancient Egyptian words. Okay, it says like, hello, how are you? I was here. My name is this, my name is that. No, it's a story. Decent story has a beginning and an end. So that was my first contact with hieroglyphic, the Gosford Glyphs.
Yeah, yeah, it's not just graffiti. It's not just a couple words. It's quite a passage there, with quite a story that we could talk about a little bit. But yeah, the story described in these glyphs is actually talking about this shipwreck of an Egyptian crew who got stuck in a storm and stranded there, which is an entirely plausible story, of course.
Mm.
But yeah, I know, it depends on what era as well, or what um, period of Egyptian culture you're talking about. The glyphs can be very different from the early to the end. And that's why I'm so glad to have you here, because it really does take a lot of education to understand, even beginning
Mhm.
to understand the glyphs.
True.
But yeah, and you were my first guide as well. I know that you worked with all these great Chris Dunn and Robert Schock, who I was there with you. That was my first tour, and you set up the best tour. I'll just say that right off the bat. We had such a good time. Actually, I got this T-shirt with it, which is my hieroglyph T-shirt.
Right.
Um, I'll put the view back to gallery here. Yeah, I got this shirt on that my first trip, so I'm
Mhm.
wearing my hieroglyph shirt for tonight. But anyway, we had such a good tour. And yeah, Robert is a geologist, geophysicist. You work with some really brilliant researchers. And so I love that every different researcher you bring with you on your tours, you're learning their specific theories every time. And so you're very, very much like an encyclopedic mind on a lot of these theories other people are bringing forward. Nassim Harriman and the resonance, all these different top people in the field have been choosing you as their guide for many years. So
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for sharing with us tonight.
Mhm.
And Vicki, I'll ask you the same question. If you want to tell us a little from when you first got interested in any of these subjects, right up to what led to your connection with the Gosford Glyphs.
Oh, thanks, Trevor. And yeah, it was wonderful to meet you on the plateau last year and have a few days exploring. Wasn't long enough, to be honest. And
Very
Mohammed,
fun.
it's lovely to, yeah, thank you. And it's lovely to meet you. I've heard so much about all your work, particularly at the Glyphs. So I've rewatched your videos a few times to actually understand them, because I don't read hieroglyphs at all. But I'm Vicki, and I've lived on the Central Coast, I don't know, maybe 12 years now or longer. Um, I have a geologist friend, and he said, you know about the Gosford Glyphs, the Egyptian glyphs there? And I said, no, I don't. And I said, you're going to have to take me there. But I got so curious that I went there with somebody else. So I've ever since then, it's just like they've hooked me in. Like, you know, showing themselves, please help. And, when we walk out of the glyphs area, it's like very difficult. It's like they're wanting you to stay to help them at the moment. I have been a school teacher all my career. I don't teach anymore, but I teach in other ways. And since I have finished my teaching, I've done quite a bit of travel. I do ceremonies around everywhere, been to Peru twice for ceremonies with Solara, and travelled and always find energetic places that seem to draw me there. So I'm not surprised that Kariong is drawing me in, and I'm fascinated by it. There's a group on the coast called, where I live on the Central Coast, Coast Environmental Alliance, and there's a group of people who are really trying to take care of the land because the situation around here has changed, which I'll elaborate on a little bit later. But we're in to try and stand up for the voiceless land and animals and plants that are being harmed with what's going on here. But I find very interesting things, and I'm forever fascinated by what I'm finding. And we've had a recent discovery that I don't think people know about, so I'll talk about that later in my presentation. But no, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all the work you've been doing because I know we've been talking a few years now, a couple of years at least. And what you've been telling me has really been hitting me very hard with I have all these different friends telling me about all kinds of stories all over the world, but this one is very, very time sensitive to me based on what you've told me about what's going on right now because there is actually a there's a very time sensitive situation right there in terms of these different interests that are encroaching on that land and threatening it. And I know you've been standing solidly with the indigenous there, being very involved with the people who are most connected to the land, and you've spent a lot of years, I know, really trying to comprehend it and understand it and connect with the land itself, which is why I'm also so glad to have you here today as a specialist and an expert on the subject. So we're really excited to hear. I know you both have a few slides you can show us, and we're going to see how many of these slides we can get through. We'll do as many as we can and really start to get into looking at what it is we have here. And I think we'll maybe start with a few of yours, Mohammed, to look at some of the validations of the hieroglyphs and talk about some of the translations you did of that. And then maybe we can jump over to some of Vicki's slides and see more about the landscape and take it from there.
Sure.
So yeah.
First, I want to give a short introduction to the work I did and the challenges to translate the glyphs and to prove that it is ancient Egyptian writings in that part in Australia. The first time when I heard about the glyphs, I had some questions in my mind, and I made sure not to read anything about these glyphs online. So I didn't want to be affected with the opinions of the others. But I still had these questions, and I told myself if I find answers to these questions, it will be my huge gate to explain the glyphs. The first question was, are we talking about a person who traveled to Australia? If we talk about an individual who left Egypt, immigrated to the east, and kept going to the east, maybe until to a close place, India or something, and then from there to Australia, or it was a group of Egyptians. The second question, based on the first, the ancient Egyptians had the ability to sail overseas to Australia because according to the mainstream Egyptologists, they didn't. And I was against this all my life when I was a student and when I was graduated studying the Egyptian history in further details. And I can tell you, I found that this is absolutely wrong. Yes, the ancient Egyptians sailed overseas and they were able to to do anything we can imagine, even a navy battle during the time of Ramses II and some of his successors. The
Yeah.
third question, these writings, they are truly writings, or they were just a bunch of symbols. Sometimes when you are in Egypt and you buy like papyrus, or you buy a scarab or something with hieroglyphic writings on it, and many people, they come very excited and they ask me, Mohammed, what does it mean? I tell them it means nothing, but it is like some scattered symbols. So I asked myself a question: is that the case, that these writings are a bunch of symbols scattered, maybe can give one, two meaning for two individual words? Okay. So these were the questions. So I started with the first question, that yes, I believe that these writings were made by a group, not just a person, because according to the style of the writings, we took at least about two people, and it was not someone who left graffiti. No, it was someone who settled there and had time, plenty of time to write them. The second question about the ability to travel, yes, the ancient Egyptians had the ability to travel and brought products from Australia. Okay, and that is the main evidence I use when you go to Hatshepsut temple and you see the carvings of her expedition to that land, Pont land, and they claim that this is an African small land country like Somalia, Djibouti. But according to the products, like a giraffe, they brought a giraffe from where we could have giraffes from South Africa. And gum trees and what we call it, the blue trees, these are Australians. Okay, the eucalyptus. And it seemed that there was earlier connection between Egypt and Australia. I was in a tour to the Elephantine Island in that Thursday, last Thursday. In the Museum of Elephantine Island, it is clearly, when you go there, you will see a showcase full of boomerangs.
Mhm.
So I believe that if you ask any person on the entire earth, the boomerangs belong to whom, he will tell you the Aboriginals, Australians. But we have it here in Egypt, not from the time of the dynastics only, but also from the time of the pre-dynastic. So we talk about these boomerangs are 5000 BC. So there was ancient connection between the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Aboriginals. Okay. And the
Yeah.
boomerangs of Tutankhamun and so many other examples. Okay. There is a map, but also unfortunately not recognized by many of the Egyptologists, but it is real map about the ancient world, and they show Australia very clear on the east south part of the world. Okay. So these the quick answers of the questions and can tell us, yes, the ancient Egyptians had the ability to go there. Some kind of situation happened, and they left these writings for us. So yes, let me share the
Yeah.
screen and show some of these
Yeah,
samples.
I remember you
Okay.
telling us when we were at Hatshepsut's temple, you showed us those two roots out in the front too, that you were saying those might actually be from Australia, or some people think they are. Um,
Mhm. And I
you,
remember in another tour, I had a man, a farmer from Australia, owns a big piece of land. And the moment he saw these trees, he told me, Mohammed, these exactly the trees I have in my land.
Mhm.
So these are the hieroglyphics symbol on the wall on Gosford.
Yeah.
Um, so as I told you, the moment I saw them, because I see these writings all the time, uh, high quality, middle quality, low quality. So for me, I'm not talking about just the quality, because this is language. Unfortunately, many people think that hieroglyphics or what we see on the walls, this is art. This is a way to decorate the wall. No, it is language, messages, text. Okay. So if it was written in a good way, no problem. If it was written if it was written in a good way, okay, that is fine. If it is written in a low quality, that is no problem at all. The point is the message. What is the message? Okay.
Well, it's
So
kind of
that what
like they have the equivalent of like a shorthand almost, if you know what that means. Like like
exactly.
it's a like hieratic also is kind of like a mix of Greek. It's a shade away from, but even within Egyptian hieroglyphs, there are simpler versions of the same pictorial pictograms,
Yes,
basically, right?
because because later I understood that many of the Egyptologists who looked at these symbols, they claim that they are fake because of the low quality of the writings. And some symbols are a little bit different from the symbols here in Egypt. But that is not fair, and it is completely wrong because they didn't consider that who made the writings in our temples here is a professional priest, and who made these writings is someone else. And I found later that he was one of these sailors. So you compare between the sailor ability and the high priest ability. No, this is not fair.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first had these photos available, I told myself, okay, I need to do a very uh, uh, good analysis to these writings individually. I will not try to read it all in one time. No, I will read the symbols first. I will make sure that all these photos or carvings on Gosford glyphs are ancient Egyptian symbols. If I found just one doesn't make any sense or strange or different from the symbols we have in Egypt, that means fake. But if I found all of them are listed in the hieroglyphic dictionary, that will be a good point to proceed. And this is what happened. I started to look to the symbol at the walls of the valley and to identify it and give the picture of the symbol I know from the hieroglyphic dictionary. The first picture here is quite difficult, but this is a way to show you the ability of people like me. So I'm not claiming it is the only person is doing this is me. No, there are so many can do this. That you can see something. Maybe you, an interested person or as an audience, you cannot recognize exactly the same thing. Okay, but I can tell you that people who reads hieroglyphic can even if the quality is very poor, will still identify the symbol. Okay, so this symbol for a man, okay, in this position, and the glyphs in the we give each glyph a code. Okay, so if I'm contacting a colleague now on phone, I can tell him A1. When I tell him A1, he understand which one I'm talking about. Okay, instead of describing, tell him, look, my friend, it's a person, man, seated, okay, with one knee up. No, I'll just tell him A1, B5, C18, and he will understand the whole sentence. Okay, this is the second symbol, and you will see that all the other symbols are giving us a great match. You will not pay any effort to put them or to try to convince yourself they are the same. No, you can see it immediately. They are 100% similar.
Yeah, it's like you have a master calligrapher on one side and then just someone with normal handwriting on the other, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not only this, but sometimes, and that what made me feel that it is we are talking about real thing, that the technique is important. Um, I will In the photos, the next slides, I will show you what I'm talking with the technique. Sometimes when you make a certain angle or a muscle or like an elbow or something, there is a kind of a curve. This curve, even if it is poor quality, they still do it. Okay. So I found that these kind of special details are existed in the ancient Egyptian, in the Gosford glyphs. So my point that yes, it was made by an Egyptian hand, because one of the accusation that it was a copy made by someone who knows hieroglyphics or a group of soldiers who visited Egypt and then came back, or some scholars or students. That is not fair. If like I say I can read hieroglyphics, I saw it millions of times. If you ask me to write a text with this size, I will say no. I cannot put together all these words, all these symbols in a good way, especially in carving, not writings. Maybe writings, but in carvings, that is very difficult unless uh, this is an Egyptian hand. If you ask me to do the same in Arabic language, which is the language I practice all the time, I can do it easily. So that's what happened. These writings were made by something like this. Look,
Mm.
we have F1, that is the original symbol. But the hieroglyphic symbol doesn't match this one, but it matches what we call it F1A, the development of the symbol.
Mhm.
So now we can use this as a date that the person who wrote this didn't live during Old Kingdom or Middle Kingdom, because they used only F1. But starting from New Kingdom time, they used F1A. So now we can understand when these were written, not before New Kingdom time. Okay. So all these symbols
Mhm.
were telling me that, yes, we are on the right track. Until
Yeah.
I met, I had this symbol.
Wow.
Um, I was very positive and I was putting together all the slides. And then I wanted to check what is the code of the symbol. I didn't find it in my dictionary. And by the way, I have 8 dictionaries. Maybe I'm the only one on earth have 8 dictionaries together for hieroglyphics. I have
Mm.
some on my phone itself. But my mind is telling me, I know it, like Muhammad, come on, you know the symbol. But it was not clear. Okay, I searched all the dictionaries. I didn't find it. So I was like, what is going on? I started to feel very stressed, and it took me a week to kind of like calm down. My wife Noha asked me why you are like this. I told her because there is a symbol. I know the symbol. I know I have seen it in many temples, but as if my memory got stuck and I couldn't remember anything else. But I all what I know that I know the symbol, but I wanted to. So she told me, okay, like pass this part. I told her no. I need to do the same thing like the other symbols to put this and to bring the picture from the hieroglyphic with the code so I can keep going. So it took me like 3 weeks searching everywhere, no good result. So one day I was on Facebook contacting or checking some of the groups I am a member in, and I am a member in many of the hieroglyphic groups. So I send them a message telling them, "Hi guys, do you recognize this symbol?" And I expect that maybe it will take like half an hour to respond saying no. But the surprise that they contacted me in maybe 10 seconds and said, yes, we know the symbol. I said, like, really? How come? Because it took me 3 weeks to recognize this and I didn't so far. They told me, because some of them, they know me, told me, Muhammad, you studied Old Kingdom and Middle Kingdom. This is after New Kingdom. You didn't study that part. And that is true. I didn't study what we call it late Egyptian literature and language because it is too much. No one can study all of them in one time. So I told them, okay, what is the symbol? They told me, yes, it's a symbol, under the name Hina, Hna. And that symbol means together with. So this is the development of the symbol I know. The symbol I know is like an arm, water wave, and another symbol, okay? But this is the development of that symbol. So after I was losing hope and I was under great stress, this symbol gave me the great chance to believe, even if I had any doubts, this symbol was telling me, Mohammed, this is your big find, because if someone like me and many in the same case will not recognize this symbol, so how come someone faked this symbol? So I told myself, if these symbols are fake, so we are talking about brilliant professor in hieroglyphics who faked these writings. No one else can do this. And that is not easy, by the way. So a brilliant ancient Egyptian language professor is the one can fake these writings because of this symbol, at least because of this symbol. But not only this, but because of this symbol, I was able to give a specific date to the writings. So we are talking about 500 to 300 BC. Okay, not after, not before. So either 500 or 3 or be in between. Okay,
Right.
so
Which doesn't
this
mean they weren't in the same area at other time periods as well, but clearly those ones were from that time at least.
exactly. We are talking about these writings. We are not talking about the
Yeah.
visits. So the visits could be maybe 1000, 2000 BC. But these writings are between 500 and 300 BC. After I finished and I found, as I told you, all these symbols are listed in the Egyptian Hieroglyphic Dictionary. So I started to move to identify the groups of symbols as words, okay? And I found many words, not many, so like all of them give meanings, okay? And not only that, but I found what I call it mix in symbols. Some of the Egyptian symbols, like this word, Jao, okay, which means guilt and deception, it is written in two ways in the Egyptian language. The first way, as the end is an arm. The second, but there is no spiral, that is letter O or W. The second style, no arm, but it's a man holding the same stick with the spiral. Okay. But the one who wrote this at Gosford, he put the spiral. So we expect to see the man, but he didn't put the man, he put the hand because it's his own language. He can use different techniques. Okay. But if this was fake, the one who faked it is copying. Okay, so he will copy one of these techniques. He will not have the ability to mix and to create new word or new style. No, if I
Right.
if I copy from English, I will copy the exact word. Okay, and these words, midu, netter, divine words. This one, the word shad. This is very difficult word, because of two main reasons. The first reason, it is a word of six symbols. It is not easy to memorize six symbols this way and the sequence. The second reason, the symbol in the middle, that long thing looks like a ladder. It is the spine, okay? And also it's a development. So some letters old Egyptians and some letter are new Egyptian. Okay. And then, yes, also this one. This one needs to be also written either by a native Egyptians or a professor. Why? Uh, I, I saw some of the explanations of this symbol as the red crown of North Egypt, which is true. Yes, this is the symbol red crown called Deshret of North Egypt. But here it doesn't serve as red crown. It serves as um, the the word I don't know how to call it when you say this that, okay, like a preposition, but it's not preposition. Okay, it serves like this style, like the word this. So only hieroglyphic students can understand this. Okay, but average readers, average Egyptologists, by the way, because this is now a surprise for the audience, that to become a hieroglyphic, to become an Egyptologist, it's not necessarily means you can read hieroglyphic in a good way. No, hieroglyphics or ancient Egyptian language is a separate study. Okay.
Yeah.
And all these, so these are all words. And then I started to put together sentences. Okay. And I found this is the name of the area, Binu, the land of Binu. So the ancient name of Australia is Binu. And
Like the Bennu bird,
like,
maybe?
yes, maybe. And
It's
here,
interesting. The Bennu bird or the Ben stone. There's like some
exactly,
association between that, the whole
the
pyramidians.
square here is means a very strong base ground. The Nu is that Egyptian jar, the Nu jar, which is a jar of the what I call it, the secret of alchemy. So maybe the Egyptians went there to abstract maybe a kind of liquid or a kind of an important alchemy. That's why they give it this name, Benu land. Okay. So this is the beginning of the first sentence, that the ruler of the Egyptian expedition. Here, the ruler can mean a royal relative, okay, but not the captain, but the leader of the expedition and the chief of the foreign land, Benu, have no deception. Here, have no deception means that they were trading with each other. And the man was putting the first statement that there was a very good relationship between the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Australians. And then right away, he told us the story about what happened. They were about to leave Australia, and from the location, the east side, so they were sailing north and then west, okay, I think south of New Zealand, and from there to the Indian Ocean, and then north again to the Red Sea, okay? So my guessing that before reaching the area between New Zealand and Australia, they had a rainstorm, very strong wind, forced them.
That's that lioness, right? The Mahit
Yes,
symbol
exactly.
that means storm or deluge. I was just watching Money Saves Today talking about this a moment ago before we did this. The
Okay.
lioness that looks like the Sphinx without the human head, that means rainstorm, right? Or
Exactly,
deluge.
and in a very aggressive level. So when they show the lioness here, it is
Uh,
not just a normal strong wind. No, very special, very bad, very strong.
yeah. Like a
Uh,
tornado or a maelstrom, you might
like a
say. It's
tsunami, yes.
mhm.
Okay. So they
Flood.
were forced to go back to the same port, okay, maybe north of Sydney now. But it was not that easy because they lost the fleet. Okay.
Mm.
And as if that this now sentence, if when I every time I read it, as if I'm watching a movie, the man give us not only the story, but he give us the feeling of the sailors. He put the word brace, so they were all frightened. They were all worried about their lives. They were in a very bad situation, and then he gave us a 3D picture in our imagination, that this upside down ship. Okay, so as if you are not reading a story, you are watching a movie. Okay, you
Uh,
can see the emotional level, praise, and then the boat upside down, and then a measurement. So the man was so precise to tell us that the boat, there was a strong wave, maybe hit the boat, lift the boat up, and then made it upside down, and was completely destroyed. So he was talking about half cubit, as if he's trying to literally say that something pushed the boat out of the water and made it upside down and then fall apart. So this is brilliant. And if I
yeah.
read this part, I would say, okay, I don't need to keep going. This is enough for me.
Yeah. To make complete sentence structure like that, that's seems
Ah,
like
by the way, the many of the the experts who started to follow this work, they accused my analysis that it doesn't contain a good grammar structure. Okay. I can easily tell them, look, guys, what you said can be accepted if we talk again about a professional priest. But this is a sailor, and the next slide will tell us who wrote the writings. So it is not fair to apply the same system we see in the Egyptian temples to apply it on these writings. The man here is trying to give us a good story with the basic system, the basic style. He is not a man of literature. He was a sailor, as we can see here. His name is Nej Sobed, and his title here, Renti, or Ren, sailor. So we don't expect much literature from a sailor. It was a miracle that he was able to write all of it. Most of the cases, sailor or farmer or carpenter, they are not qualified to read and write good hieroglyphics. Maybe even till now in some countries, some of the professions it requires only high school maybe or less education. So they cannot write a full text. Yes, they can read and write hieroglyphics, but they cannot write in perfect style with all the grammar structure and all the literature and metaphors. No, that will be unfair to imagine that they can do something like this. So here we have the name of the person who wrote these writings. Okay. And how we know that he is the one who wrote this? Because the snake and the symbol under the snake, it said this. Like these words said by, okay, and this we see it in the Egyptian temples always on the walls when they talk about who mentioned or who said that text, okay, and always we find the name under the symbol, this symbol.
Mhm.
And then another name was found, and that is the possibility that this second person also wrote some of the writings because the style of the shorthand is not the same. There are two styles. So maybe this person also wrote, and who is this person? It has the same title, Ghin or Ghinu, which means sailor, but with an extra symbol called Nisu, the chief of sailors, the captain. So this guy here is the captain. So one sailor survived, at least one, and one captain survived. By the way, this is the picture I got from the research I made later about Gosford Glyphs, and I found even some mistakes happened. The cartouche to the left side for Khufu, the cartouche for the right side is unrecognized. This is wrong. But not because the original one is not wrong. No, the one who copied this one, he made it wrong. If you check, here it is. So this is the name Sinefru. Okay, Sinefru. So the man who sent me this photo, he made it wrong. So this is what I'm saying. So a man was trying to copying something for analysis, he made it wrong. What about if someone wanted to fake these writings? That will be impossible to fake all these symbols. To fake maybe 5 symbols, 10 symbols, but to fake more than, I don't remember, 200 symbols, that is an impossible job.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is, as I told you, 500 to 300 BC. And so these are the uh,
Cool.
the main slides I have for this analysis.
Yeah, awesome. That definitely, I mean, yeah, I've seen you speak about it before, but I think what you've just shown alone pretty much lays it out that it would be, like you say, you know, if in any sense it was possible for it to be faked, it would need to be someone who studied as much as you have, or more, to
More.
know these hieroglyphs, which yeah,
Mhm.
seems very unlikely. And if you have a real professional, the types of people like that aren't normally thinking, how can I trick the whole world into thinking that, this whole thing's wrong as a general rule. But yeah, you basically, I think, narrowed it down, besides the work I've seen you do elsewhere, to prove absolutely there's no way this could be fake. But Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those. I would comment a little bit quick about what you said at first too, that there is so much more context about this. And if we look at Hatshepsut's temple, there's a
Mhm.
few other things there that, for one thing, she's showing in the reliefs. They're called the Punt reliefs. Like you said, Punt is this land that she was traveling to, or some of her people were. Some people have claimed, maybe that was Atlantis, or maybe Punt was Australia, or they think it might mean other things. But it does seem very clear from her text that her people did sail very far down the east coast of Africa, I think, and it's very likely that I mean, there's a few things that tell us that they did go into open ocean. For one thing, the reliefs at Hatshepsut's temple, you see deep sea fishes and sea creatures, right? They're so detailed. These fish are so deep. I'll put in some images in the interview um, once I add in some more here. But yeah, there's fish that are nowhere near close to the coast in those images, and you
This
see
is
the
a good
boats.
point. This is a good point, Trevor. When they made these very high quality details, it means that they made this visit hundreds of times. So they saw
Yeah.
these fish many, many, many times. So they were able to make these great details. I I
Uh,
salute you for this information.
yeah, thank you. Well, you also see the boats in those images, and these boats are very, very detailed as well. You see this water that the boats are on. If you look, you can see some deep sea creatures, different fish. And these fish are not found in the Mediterranean. These are not from the sea, these are from the deep ocean. You can see in such detail what breed they are. So we know that these ships did not just sail in the Mediterranean Sea. They were definitely going out into the Pacific, the Atlantic possibly. And we also know from some of the boats that were discovered at Giza, like look at this fish right in the middle, it's beautiful. There's a squid. See if I can, where's the squid on here? That's a squid, look at that. Some of the boats that were found at Giza, the ancient wood, it still had remnants of corals on it, which only grow in the tropics. So again, we're definitely not just talking about the Mediterranean Sea. These boats went far out there into the oceans. As I showed before, when you go all the way back out to the entrance here, there's a tree from Australia. Here you can see the acacia trees also. Look at these trees. Have you ever heard of Men of the Desert? Have you heard that story? Um,
No,
Men
none
of
of
the
the.
Desert was the name that they gave to this boat. This team actually built a boat that was basically based on the instructions and illustrations from Hatshepsut and some other ancient texts, but they basically built a boat using only what tools and materials the ancient Egyptians would have had, and based entirely on their diagrams and images and descriptions. So
Mhm.
they built this boat in modern times using only those tools, and they put it in the water and they tested it out. They named the boat Men of the Desert. And I'll
Mhm.
share a link in the description of this video so people can look it up. But there's a great article about it. They put this thing in the water and it cruised. I mean, it went way faster than they thought it could. It was so easy to operate. It could take a very small crew and they could cross the Atlantic. They could cross the Pacific. And they absolutely proved that the boats that are shown there would have worked. And yeah,
Yes,
like you said, there's all this other
we have
context.
we have the similar story of Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian adventurer, who copied the Egyptian boat from papyrus. So not even from wood, but he made the entire boat Ra 1, Ra 2 from papyrus plant. And it
Mhm.
was sailing in a very good way.
Yeah. Well, and then of course we visited the Khufu Solar Boat Museum right next to the Great Pyramid, and you see Khufu Solar Boat. You know, they say these were only ceremonial. They only moved on land. They're symbolic of the boat of Ra or whatever. But sure, they were, but that doesn't mean they weren't also functional. And
Yes.
I can't remember exactly where I heard this. I feel like it might have been John Anthony West who brought it up at one point and told me that I think the reference went back to him at least. There were some of those boats that still had remnants of coral on their hulls, which are only grow in the tropical regions of the oceans. So not in the
Right.
Mediterranean. We're not just talking about going to Lebanon here.
No coral at the Mediterranean, no. I think almost
Yeah,
there. But the sea, yes, and the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, yes.
yeah, amazing. Yeah, and like you say, we saw all these boomerangs too. We saw these all this different points of evidence that show before we even get into the Gosford glyphs that there was a lot of clear evidence that there was cultural diffusion between the Egyptians and the
Mhm.
Australians at a pretty early point, I think.
Right.
So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for laying all that out. Really great work, and thank you so much for doing that and being dedicated to finding it, especially those tricky ones that get annoying and you're like, what is this glyph? I can't get it out of my head. I need to know this symbol. I've had that feeling myself before.
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I think we can expand it out at this point and start looking at some of your slides, Vicky, and looking at what's actually on the land there, and maybe just get into some of them at least, and we can just openly dialogue on it at this point. If you have any comments, of course, Mohammed, jump in. Um, but yeah, maybe we can have you take it from there, Vicky, and start talking about what is actually going on there. And I know you've got a lot of material about some of the area around the glyphs too, and some of the other structures there. So we're really going to fill this story out now. And yeah, take it away.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I'd like to really thank Mohammed for all the work that he's put into trying to decipher the glyphs.
Brilliant.
There's hours and hours and hours of time there. And I've looked at them and, it's like, I suppose you can't read and get a bit frustrated. But, for you to have interpreted these, it's just amazing. There is a story that Khufu came here and he had his two sons, and one was bitten by a snake and the other one got back to Egypt. And I'd love to know the real story.
Mhm. Yeah, well, maybe like I was saying, maybe some of these other areas as well, we'll find glyphs that are earlier than
Mm,
the late kingdom. So yeah, we could take a look at that
mm,
too.
yeah. So, firstly, I just need to pay my respects to the original traditional bloodline custodians of the area, the Guringai, the Darkinung people on the Central Coast. That's important to me to express that respect. Um, I, and today, I need to say that I'm not speaking for anyone else today, that everything that I say is from my own research and from my own experiences and interactions and opinions. I believe opening discussion is always the start to more important conversations that we really have to have, and hold that energy for a better planet is absolutely essential. And I feel to say that today. Um,
Absolutely.
so the next slide. This is Gosford Glyphs. We call it Kariong Sacred Lands. Kariong is actually the suburb that the glyphs are in, but they're known around the world as the Gosford Glyphs. Um, and you can see the water right at the end of this picture, and that's Brisbane waters. So these Egyptians would have sailed in off the ocean into a more protected area of Brisbane waters. It's located on the Central Coast, which is 33 degrees south of the equator. Um, and the link between Egypt and Kariong is no accident, no coincidence, as far as I'm concerned. I had to put in a picture of Uluru because Uluru is also on 33 degrees. So there's that line where the pyramids are also pretty close to 33 degrees as well, and that's another link. If you come to Australia, it's a must to go to Uluru, and if you walk around the base, it's 10.5 kilometres. Absolutely awesome. This is the grandmother tree, and when you get to up to the glyphs, everybody gravitates to the grandmother tree. She's a beautiful red gum and Angofra tree, and she's huge. She's got amazing energy, and everybody's drawn to her. It's almost like you need to seek permission from her to go any further. And with an Angofra tree, you don't ever camp under one because it drops its branches. They just cut off supply to the branches, and in the wind down they come. That's how they live, how they survive. It's another angle, and she is huge. This is a picture from the grandmother tree looking in a different direction, and you can see there's a space here. This was actually a very important ceremonial area, and different mobs would come from all over New South Wales to hold ceremony in this area, and it's well known to be of great importance. And just in a different direction from there, I've turned, and this is where the glyphs are, up here somewhere. So they've been very well covered by bushland and were very difficult to find. Even today, when they've been cleared a bit, people come and they don't know where to go. They can't find them. So, but this area is extremely sacred and extremely important to everybody that goes there, apart from a few. Now, this was the view of the original glyphs. You can see these rocks at the top here. This one is actually just holding on to the edge, and it was deemed as unsafe, and therefore they needed to blow them up. And all that happened last year. Our group found out about it right as it was starting to happen. People reported that there were contractors there. They were supposedly using hand tools to destroy these two rocks up here. And basically what's happened is that all became rubble to go down on the ground. So this is what it looked like originally. And you can see the moss on the wall, which certainly helps you to date them if you wanted to date them. A lot of the moss disappeared. They seemed to think it was important to do a bit of a cleanup.
Yeah, because lichen it takes forever to grow. So if you have like layers of lichen on there, that can help you date to some degree. So they cleaned it
Yeah,
off and they destroyed both of those rocks across the top.
yes, and I'll show you. I was up there
Horrible.
a lot,
Absolutely
and I do
horrible.
have video that I took of being up there, and there were big signs there: "Don't go in, danger, things might fall." But you could walk in here, and it had a beautiful energy. You can see this energy here, um, and here.
Is this part of the Gosford
This
Glyphs or the
this
separate?
is inside. This is inside the glyphs where I was standing, but just looking up. And you can see all this beautiful energy here. And you could certainly feel it when you walked in there. Um, oh, I had to put that in. That's one of my favourites. I don't understand that, but there is a story about spaceships being down in Brisbane waters, and still there's reported that the spaceships end up diving into the water down there. So a lot of people see them. It's been reported on the news. So we've always wondered whether there was a connection with, um, ETs that came to the area as well. This one has always intrigued me, and I have spoken to Mohamed about this before. Um, and it's a really interesting glyph. It's right down the bottom of the wall, and with all the rubble that was put there, it's actually been covered up now. So that's a bit unfortunate. We can't see it, but I do have a photo. So,
It's been
and
covered
this
up
one,
now.
it's been covered up by the rubble because when they put the rubble down, the floor came up probably, I don't know, 30 centimetres, 40 centimetres. That's maybe a foot, a bit more, probably half a metre.
You mean just
So,
from the pieces of the rocks they destroyed up top?
yeah,
Yeah.
Criminal,
yep,
horrible.
yep.
Buried.
Yeah, and we found out about it as it was happening. I rang National Parks and Wildlife and said, can you tell me who the contractor is? Can you tell me what's going on? Can you tell me what the works are? And pretty much they just said, no, we're not going to tell you. And only that somebody walked up there and spoke to one of the contractors that we found out more information. And they just left everything laying around. Really wasn't any safety around it. So there's so that people know, Aboriginal people, I'm going to call original because ab means not. So I'll refer to Aboriginal people as original. Um, so we have carvings like this everywhere. And this is just on stone platforms all around the place. And there's a fish. You see these everywhere. There's whales. All sorts of different things. Now, this interested me. I found this and had a photo of it, um, just on a rock, and I'm thinking that looks like a bit to Egypt. Not too many people know about that, but I'd certainly be interested in your opinion about that. Doesn't have to be now, but I would certainly be interested in finding out about that. It seems to have been formed on another rock, and that's not far from the glyphs. Now, these rocks here, they look like they've fallen out of the sky. A lot of us say they look like spaceships that have become fossilised, and they're on the path, walking down the main road to get to the glyphs. And there's a few of them in different places that look like this as well. This is a hanging swamp, and the hanging swamp um, is fed by water that comes down from the top area that I'll talk about in a little while. And the top area, all this area is what we call C2 conservation to protected, and it's not ever meant to be touched. Now, this area, it's above the glyphs, and the Darkinjung Local Aboriginal Land Council are attempting to rezone that area at the top for residential, to residential for houses. They want to put houses up there. So if they do that, then the hanging swamp will be destroyed, and in my view, that it will be destroyed, and the water that's coming down is going to really affect the integrity of the sandstone and all this beautiful bushland down further, all the way from above the glyphs all the way down to Brisbane waters. So it's really important that we stop this development up the top. This is just some more carvings up there. Like there's a few of these around in the area. Now this is part of a star map, and the star map was looked at by Sydney University and verified to be 4,600 years old, and it's also a star map of Orion's belt. It's found about 50 metres above the glyphs, and it's just up there, and bike riders just ride straight over it all the time, and that's very hard to watch. That's more of the star map. It's just, if you walked on it and you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't notice it. But when you know what it is, you look at it with totally different eyes, and it's massive. It's a massive area, and it's just amazing. You can see that it's just being eroded. Now these are two spirals, and the star maps in the women's area, these two spirals have been found in the men's area, and to me they look man-made.
So this is
I'm
all
no
like now
expert
in the
though.
middle of a bike path, basically. People are riding their mountain bikes right over it. Nobody's
Yep.
even knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they're motorbikes as well.
Wow.
Um, and this is, I have my views on what this is. It appears to be a seat of some kind. And when I take photos up at Kariong, often you'll see a blurry image um, in my photos, and I know it's energetically really strong when half of my photo blurs. Um, and that's right near this. And I show this with great respect. If this is a women's healing table, um, and the bike riders come along the top and they go down this on their bikes and then jump off down to the bottom and use it as a ramp. And to me, like this is so sacred and that shouldn't happen. And yet there's nothing we can do to actually get it noticed and get it heritage listed. I do know somebody who's tried to heritage list the area. The government needs to approve and say, yes, this is true and real and authentic and we must heritage list it. They don't even answer his emails. So, and he's been trying for a number of years. Um, and that's the view from the top. There's a little bit of clearing I'll talk about later, but you can see that it's really very sought after property with beautiful views like that. And it goes from the top. This is as high as you can get down to Brisbane waters.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, and and there's another set of glyphs there, a second set that's maybe 50 to 100 metres away. Um, and there was destruction of this area near the second set of glyphs, and it appears to have come from some kind of fossicker that seemed to have a metal detector. And I've known people to have left treasures or signs of respect to whoever they believe is inside the, the glyphs, and I'll talk about that as well. So he's come along with his metal detector and dug and dug and dug, maybe a metre. Um, and when I went up there about a month ago, the hole was still there. And I ring national parks and I say, I'm happy to take friends up with shovels and we'll just dig it all back in, put all the soil back in. And they go, oh no, we've got to do the paperwork. And they said that to me maybe 6 to 12 months ago. The, and there's a lot of damage to the rock near where they were digging this hole, like they were using some kind of machinery. Um,
Who was digging it?
so
I mean, did the people digging it not need a permit to be working there, or they just did it anyway?
what they were what they were doing was not permitted, and I rang National Parks and Wildlife and asked questions about that. So they just went in there. I actually have a photo from a friend that shows her with a guy with a metal detector walking through there one day. So which is interesting. So he kind of got caught a bit, but I don't know how far they got with it, and they're in no rush to do anything about it either. So this is another set of glyphs, maybe 50 to 100 metres away from the original glyphs within the mastaba. Um, and these look much, much older.
Have you seen
And
these
they're,
ones, Mohammed?
Ah, yes, I have some photos.
Oh, this one?
mm,
Okay.
yeah. And I can't really make out, if you pour water over them, you see them better. But there's a few more there. Um, and this hole just to the left there, I put a stick in that hole and it went almost a metre in there. So, and you know, of course, you have to wonder what kind of equipment would be able to um, drill a hole like that into that rock that would go almost 1 metre in, and what did they use it for? So I tend to think personally that it was some kind of air vent for chambers in there, and I'll get to that as
Is that
well.
a was that a vertical face or was that down on the ground? That was up on like a cliff face.
Yes, above near the second set of glyphs on the wall. It's up high. So, and the big hole that they've dug, it's kind of in front of this particular hole. Here's more glyphs. I can see what looks like a lobster, I think, down here.
Yeah, or a
Um,
scorpion, I'm gonna say,
yeah, a
maybe.
scorpion. Um,
Scorpion.
and then there's another one up here that I can't make out. They're starting to get quite eroded. Um, and there's another little shelf here, and there's a hole that goes in there as well. And it seems like, to me, this looks like it's perhaps man-made. But as I said, I'm no expert. I just try and work things out for myself. Um, this is the hole that they dug. Um, and I really don't know why they dug it, but it's
Well,
been
to
like
have
that
metal
for a
detector. Maybe they
couple of
found some
years.
metal. Hmm.
Maybe they did. And maybe that metal was a gift to whoever was in there, because people do come and honour the place. It does
Yeah.
mean a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
if you did have Egyptians there too, and they did consider it a sacred spot, sure, there could be tombs. There could be there
mm,
could be treasures, gold.
mm, I know people leave crystals and things like that as well. So um, this is a
Wow.
tunnel underneath the glyphs. Now, I was speaking to a friend last night who happened to tell me that years ago, I think it was in 92, she crawled in under here and it went for 6 meters. And she came to another room and she was able to stand up in that room. In the
Wow.
process of putting all of the rubble down, um, they've actually closed off the entry that I know that people have got into before. They've closed off that entry so people, wouldn't even know where it is anymore, but I know where it is. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, so and I think it goes down for maybe 3 different levels like that, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Um,
That's amazing.
and yeah, so when they say that the glyphs aren't real, then there's other things there that can add to the validation of it. These rock walls down the side are sheer, straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I know I
um,
never heard anything about any structures underground until I had talked to you. I had been interested in the Gosford Glyphs for many years already, but I had never heard anyone talk about tunnels. And I haven't seen that photograph before. That's amazing. It really does look like a worked kind of tunnel. It's like I think Mohammed, you've probably seen some in Egypt actually look like this that aren't necessarily perfectly sheer, but that are basically all rectangular and um,
Yeah,
I don't know. It kind of reminds me. I was just in the Tuna Gebel um,
right.
tunnels, which are like they're square. They're not like perfectly smooth, but they're kind of rough, but they're basically totally 90 degrees, like they're squared out. Um,
and this friend of mine was
All right.
picked out of her group to go there, to get in there because she's only tiny, and she said that her shoulders just missed the walls, so it's not that wide. Um, but it really makes you wonder how they did that all that way back then, and um, and yeah, and the authorities really don't want to know about it.
and why would they cover it up? Exactly. This is the exact same thing we're dealing with in Egypt. You know, Bill discovered all those doors right next to the Sphinx, and then
Mm,
they come back and buried them, and he
Mm,
uncovered them twice. They came and buried them twice.
mm,
It
mm,
really baffles the mind. Why would anyone ever have any desire to bury something like that? You really have to think
mm.
about that. Um,
And mm,
Obviously, you know, it at the least it's debatable what's in there, what's down there, or what it leads to. But why would anyone want to cover it up when we don't even know? And what we see of it right here is very clearly something. Um,
mm.
yeah, God,
mm.
I would love to just crawl down into some of those holes. We can get over there
and
some.
and I got I got this picture off the internet, so it's out there. If anyone wanted to Google the tunnels under the glyphs, they could look a little bit more into it. I feel that, and I don't know for certain, that there are tunnels going in different places around there as well, but I don't have any proof of that.
Well,
Um,
I do have these new friends in Italy, um, and they've got some
yes,
pretty cool
please,
scanning technology. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
No, I did
please.
actually. I did just talk to the Copper Project friends, Armando May and Filippo Biondi. I did an interview with them about a week ago, but I just released it today. And I actually told them, I asked them, everyone in the world already knows about this. I don't have to describe what they're doing at
Mm.
Giza, but I'm asking them about their scanning methods. And one of the questions everyone wanted me to ask them was, where are you going to scan next? So I actually said, for instance, would you guys be interested in kind of targeting some of these sites that are at risk, like the Gosford Glyphs? So I brought this up and mentioned both of you and said, maybe we could get this technology to take a look at the Gosford Glyphs because I know that there is likely some underground structures there. So maybe we
Right.
get them to point the SAR satellites at Gosford. Maybe that is what it will take to force the Australian authorities to take it seriously. Combine that with some of Mohammed's, translations here and validations. Well, we've got a shot at really forcing the Australian government or whichever local district officials. We could really put it in their faces to say, actually, we do have evidence that there are important structures below ground as well as above ground. So yeah, it's not we could see what we could do there. These guys are definitely open to trying to do exactly that. That's why they're scanning Giza Plateau right now instead of selling the patent to the Pentagon or Raytheon or something. They're actually trying to use it to do the things that will actually help the world the most and that will restore the true history and give us a chance to actually examine the origins of civilization and specifically all this stuff that's underground. There's always stuff underground. When you have the glyphs and things like that above ground, I think so.
The two sections always, above and under.
Yeah, as above, so below. Am I right?
Hello. Yeah,
Exactly.
Always.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
And
the text above the ground could be a meaning of the design under the ground.
hmm
mm,
Yeah, and I
mm.
think we'll get there in 1 second, but I think there's a tie to never mind. I'll mention it when we get there.
Oh, I'll keep going. Now, this is another star map that's at Milyera, and it's got a huge etching of a whale on it. I don't know, maybe 30 meters long. It's massive. And this is probably the size of maybe 3 football fields. And there's just these indentations of a star map all over the place. And this one, nobody's looked at this one. And the development, this is up the top of Kariong. And 50 metres from here is where they want the development to start. Already they're riding their bikes over this as well and going straight over this, beautiful rock formation. They don't know, though. They don't know what they're doing wrong. But this is really sacred. And unless we stand up and say, this needs to be looked into and we need to take care of this, it's not going to happen. So, now this is, I'm going to go into the destruction now, and this is a video of me going up with my camera, and you can probably hear my voice, how it upsets me a lot too.
I'm at the top of the glyphs here, and you can see the walls of the glyphs just down below me, and then they've started all the blasting and lots of rocks everywhere, and even at the top, I've got some photos of that. Pretty distressing, really. Over the back where that orange netting is just down in that section. There's a whole lot of rubble, like they're trying to fill that in.
That was hard to see. And here's a little bit more.
Just up at the glyphs today, just up the top part, this netting appears to be quite new. It does say no entry, boulders may fall, but from what I can see, the boulders that were there have now gone.
What do they do? What are they saying they're doing up there? What is this construction? Like, what's their cover story? Are they?
Well, they were saying that
Just up at the glyphs.
they were saying that these two rocks over the top that I showed you earlier, they needed to be blasted and made into rubble and destroyed, because one of the rocks was just resting on the wall, and apparently that I heard was that there was some earth movements, and if that slipped and fell, it could cause injury. But I don't know if there were other options that they looked at to try and save that rock. But then there was another rock that was totally across the top as well that wasn't causing issues, and they just blew that up as well. So basically it's now really exposed the glyphs to the weather, where
causing issue to whom? This is not a walk or a bath, or people are walking under the rock all the time. It's nowhere.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yep.
Say that. It's like this rock that's probably just been sitting perched there for thousands, if not millions of years, and they're like, "Oh, it's a danger if someone happens to walk under there and it falls on them or something like that." That's insane. Oh, we're gonna actually actively demolish this cultural heritage site because this rock might fall on someone someday. I mean, that's insane. Yeah,
And we didn't know about it till it actually had started. And then everybody that was very concerned was ringing up and trying to get information, going up and talking to the contractors. And in the process of all this, we believe that there's very sacred energy up there as well. And if you do the wrong thing up there, then somehow it will come back to you. The ancestors will speak. And one of the workers actually slipped off the top and fell down and broke his leg and severed an artery, and the blood splattered all up the wall where the glyphs are. And they reported it in the news as a bushwalker had broken his leg. They wouldn't even own up to what had happened up there, but it was definitely one of the workers. They had to get a helicopter in to airlift him out. So, unfortunate for the contractor. And here's a couple of core samples that I found up there of different sizes. Obviously, they were core samples taken out of the rocks and just thrown to the side as they were putting in whatever they needed to use. They said everything was by hand.
those are modern, like they were drilling in and made those in modern times, or are those old? Do you know, or do you
They
know
were
that?
they were new. They were new, and they were out of. They were core samples taken out of where they were drilling to put the hand tools in, they said. As I said, I'm no expert on this. I'm just, going up there and taking note of things that don't look right.
Well, that doesn't make
So
any sense. What were they doing taking core samples or drilling into the stone? If the, that also does that, that's like they're looking for something. Like they're drilling down to find chambers, like they know there's something there, right?
well,
They're doing their own research now.
Yeah.
oh,
Which is
I
kind
hadn't
of to
thought of that.
say that it is significant. Why would they be? Yeah, there's only very few reasons why you would actually take core samples like that. That's
Mm,
basically evidence that they think there is something up there, and they're
Yes.
like
mm.
intentionally just, yeah. Well, obviously they're intentionally destroying it, but that's kind of evidence of that.
And up here you can see they use some hand tools to destroy these rocks. and then they just let them fall down lower, and then they seem to perhaps jackhammer them to break them in to be smaller and, compact them down. So there's another view of that,
I call
how
that
they were breaking them.
text. That's
Like, this is hard for me to look at, to see that this is what they've done. And when you're connected to the land, it really affects you.
Yes, this is bad.
Mm. And there's more. Don't go there. And they call this the lizard head. And thankfully they didn't take that, but the other rocks were kind of resting over the top where my cursor is. More. You can see they started to throw the rubble down there over the original rock. More. And this glyph, they talk about Sydney University coming. And as I said, I'm no Egyptologist. I don't read hieroglyphs, but to me, somebody has done this to try and disprove the rest. Am I right in feeling that, Mohamed? Or is this
Someone,
a real glyph here? You can
yes,
see the graffiti over it.
this is Anubis.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Anubis here means or proves your story about tunnels. When you see Anubis, you expect tunnels immediately
Mm.
because Anubis is the one will take the soul to the journey to the second life, and
Mm.
Anubis is what we call him the path leader. Will take your soul till your soul come this specific entrance, go this way, and that entrance is always under the ground. Okay, which we call
Right.
it the underworld. Okay, and from there the soul will keep going. So anywhere we see Anubis, so it is what we call it tomb. But yes, it was functioning as tomb. But originally, this is the story of another other dimensions. But later, the regular
Mm.
dynastic Egyptians consider it as tombs.
Mm. And
that's
can you
that's
see
kind
that
of
it's been graffitied too? It's like people have tried to go over it and they've tried to put other markings on the wall, and that's what's happening up there now. When people hear about it,
And
they go, I've got to go and visit, and they
what
graffiti it.
we can refer again, look to the carving. Have you seen any? Do you see any corrections that they try to make the nose and then, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Do you see any corrections or all was made in continuous mark? All continuous. There is no
yeah.
correction, right?
Mm.
So this is what I'm talking about. It was made by an Egyptian hand capable or for like when I said when I write Arabic language, I write it like quick. Okay, I don't need to make it slowly and then oh sorry this is a mistake so I erase the mistake. No, so this was
Mm.
not made by any modern person.
Okay. And
This is not
and they're
fake.
holding the Ankh as well over here.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, the
it's
new eye.
interesting. I was gonna say, in I have one photograph that came from in the Grand Canyon where, everybody talks about Kincaid and back in the 1800s, the guy named Kincaid, he discovered these caves in the Grand Canyon where he said there was all these Egyptian artifacts and all this stuff. And there were several other expeditions after his time, early 1900s and onward, that claim the same kind of thing. And even today, there's a few people I know who are finally at least proving that there's actually this presence of very weird kind of unmarked security people. And if you get close to some of these areas where supposedly this Egyptian stuff was, you're going to get these weird unmarked cars or planes. You can't fly any lower than the ground there. You can't hike up anywhere close to these.
Mhm.
But I've seen one person was Tim Hogan actually. He actually he got a photograph of Anubis in the Grand Canyon, etched into a wall just like that, and it was right
Mm.
next to an entrance into a tunnel that went right back into the cliffs, just like
Mm.
Muhammad's saying, Anubis is the one who takes you into the afterlife, into the underworld. Um, and so, yeah, he said this tunnel went into that area in the Grand Canyon, maybe like 20 feet, and then it was cemented shut. So it's
Mhm.
basically very, very clear that this whole thing has been covered up, but there were very real experiences of people actually finding not only hieroglyphs, but some other people more recently. I could put some other links in the description here of some of the resource where they're
Mm.
saying there were mummies inside there, that there was even Buddhist and Asian cultures seemingly represented in the same area. But not to detract too far off in that direction, I just want to say, because Muhammad's saying when you see Anubis, you're going to see underground tunnels and caves. That's exactly what it was, and that is the only
Mm.
actual piece of evidence, as far as the Grand Canyon story goes, that I've ever seen of an actual Egyptian pictogram there, um, right in front of the
Mm.
entrance to the cave. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
would,
thank you for clearing that up, Mohammed. Um, but, I'll
certainly
move on. So this, so this is now the cleared um, glyph area, and the entrance to it is down the bottom here, where my cursor is, and it's all very clean up the top here, where the rocks have now gone. You can see over here that it's had a bit of a clean. Over here is definitely pretty fresh, um,
who just
and
goes
it's
there and washes the rocks, cleans off the lichen and moss off the rocks? How do they justify that action? Oh no, we just regularly come out of the wilderness and scrub this up a bit. What?
Yeah. Well, some of the blood from the man that broke his leg was on this wall over here, might have been over here. I don't know, but they had excuses, so I don't know. And this is the top area. They've, pounded all that rubble down. And this is where the rock was resting over here. And it's down here and it's now gone. So all that's now exposed. So this was before, this beautiful area here before, and now this is after. Mm. I'm going to go on. This is Lion Island, and this is just at the bottom of the hill in Brisbane waters. Um, and Lion Island is located down in Brisbane waters, and it's considered part of the Central Coast, and it is a descriptive name because it resembles a sphinx, a mythical figure of a crouching lion. It's from Wikipedia. And interestingly, the location is 33 degrees. It's at the mouth of the Hawkesbury River. The mouth of the Hawkesbury River is known to be the womb of the mother. Um, with and It's north of Sydney as well. And the Sphinx's location is, and a lot of people compare the Sphinx to Lion Island, that there is some kind of relationship there, similar shape, size. Some people even say the dimensions are. I haven't done that, haven't looked into that, but both on 33 degrees pretty much. And that area between Lion Island and the glyphs, that straight line, is extremely powerful. It's on a very strong ley line.
Yeah, I have seen
Mm.
I've kind of came across this connection on my own, and then I found a book that was all about it. It's called The Secret Places of the Lion, which is a really, really interesting book. But the theory that I started seeing was that these lions or cats, of any type, like jaguars in Mexico and pumas in Peru, or the stone lions in Asia or different things, that the lion or the cat was always this symbol of an underground record chamber, archive, repository, time capsule, like a place where there was a secret archive stored underground, like the halls of records under the Sphinx. Um, So by the time I saw you tell me about Lion Island and telling me that also it's a very sacred site, you were saying that I think now nobody's allowed to go there or only women were allowed there. Did you say that?
Yeah, it's a men's area.
Oh,
You know,
only.
for original people, it's a men's area, and
Okay.
people aren't allowed to go there. I have heard different stories about things, you know, caves being on there and whatever, but I can't get there. I don't know. And even our elder, our Guringai elder, has said that she has never been there and she doesn't know what's there. So. But interestingly, I came across the 10 Sphinx-like carvings found north of Sydney. So, you know, where Sydney Harbour is, the heads of Sydney Harbour, it's just north of that, from Manly going up north. And they found 10 of these Sphinx-like carvings along there. And again, they're trying to say World War II, you know, soldiers came back from Egypt and liked the look of the Sphinx, so they decided to create some. Um, but there's these sphinxes along the foreshore that we can't explain. So, and apparently there's 10 of them. There's a walk along there. So there's other areas that are in need of support that are also struggling at the moment. I've only put like half a dozen here or 7, but these are important. We've got the Glasshouse Mountains, which is an extremely important area for Aboriginal people. There's, you know, dreaming stories up there. There's a mining company that's come in and they've started a mine there underneath Mount Canaveral, and now they've put an application in to double the size of it. And really, all they just want, you know, they just want gravel pretty much. That's it. And the area cannot sustain it. Like there's a truck going there or leaving every 3 minutes past a school. But we've got the central west of New South Wales. You've got the Belubula River, where there's a gold and copper mine. They want to actually cement up underground natural streams to try and increase the size of the gold mine there. We've got the Gympie Pyramid I'll talk about when we get there. King Cumber Wetlands, the Darkinjung Land Council owned that and they've just leased it to Woolworths, a big shopping complex, and it's right over a beautiful wetland. Porters Creek is up near an aerodrome. They want to put an aerodrome or increase the size of it. At Narrabri, this is where I went on the weekend, up to the Pilliga. They have coal seam gas mining there. And basically it would destroy the Great Artesian Basin, which is where our water source is underneath Australia. It would destroy that if they continue. And you've got the standing stones in the northern rivers that are no longer standing. The farmer that owned the property was told to take them down or else. So he
Wow.
didn't have a choice. So I just want to show you, this is the Glasshouse Mountains mine, and you can see Mount Canaveral here. I think this is Mount Biwa, and this is a place where we actually held ceremony in November last year up here. Beautiful. This is Central West. This is Acadia Mine out here, and you've got the Belubula River that just runs through here that it will affect. People are going, no, you just can't you can't increase this. Now this is Gympie, and here's a church wall with some stones that were taken from the Gympie Pyramid, I believe. And I have heard, I don't know 100%, that they made a brick wall around a church and then they threw the rest in the ocean after they destroyed the Gympie Pyramid. And these were some artefacts. There's the Gympie Pyramid in the middle, and these are artefacts that were found. And I got these off the internet that they found around the Gympie Pyramid. And there's an original elder that lives up this way, and she told me that you can now determine where gold has been mined from, and the gold that was found in Tutankhamun's tomb was actually mined at Gympie. Australia.
And these
So,
sites are unrecognized also, Vicky? Did they
uh,
recognize this? But
yeah, pretty much.
the Gympie wall
Yeah,
you showed me, this is like smoking gun evidence. This is real. I can tell you my own
yeah,
That's
opinion.
pretty. I mean, yeah, you get again into like, why would they destroy a pyramid if it's not? Why wouldn't you just leave that hill there? Why would you dismantle a pyramid? Um,
mm,
it's like
No,
in
I always have this question. I imagine if someone will come and tell me, Mohammed, your great grandfather was the teacher of Einstein. So I will feel, okay, maybe. But our academics, if they have the same thing, they act like, no, no way, this is wrong. It is a lie. It is. So that is my question. Why we deny or why we try to put an end to such a story? Let's uh, keep it and let someone else say it is wrong, but not us. This will be
mm,
important for our community. Like the Bosnian pyramid, I always use it as good example. So many people try to say it's fake, but the country is trying to say it's real. And they help and they do everything possible, and there is a good work behind it. Okay.
mm,
So
mm.
that's why I always ask people why they don't agree with things like this.
yeah.
Not denying
Well,
from the first
the
attempt we
elders,
tried to say it's authentic, they deny
the
it.
Aboriginal of the original elders up here at Gympie, they put a major highway through a really sacred space at Gympie, and they sat down and they wouldn't move and they protested and they did everything they could to stop the road from going through. The road went through and they arrested these elders. Um, just for trying to just to sit on the land and to not have the land destroyed. So
Mhm.
That's
and it's
exactly what happened in Mexico as well to the some of the Olmec pyramids, like the Olmec site of La Venta, one of the oldest pyramid sites in Mexico. The Olmec was they call it the mother civilization of Mexico, and some of those pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of Moon at La Venta, the original one of the main sites they occupied, they destroyed those pyramids. They took all that stone, demolished, they took it apart piece by piece and turned it into roads. It was a road. It was like a construction company, I believe, if I'm remembering correct. I think I read about that from Graham Hancock way back in Fingerprints of the Gods. And I never forgot it. I was so angry about that. But it's a different thing, it's they can try and justify a lot of this stuff by saying like, oh, whatever, we people need houses, we got to build houses, or these industrial developments have to get put up somewhere or something. But it's like when you see something like this, that is a pyramid that someone really had to think about, okay, well, that thing is there. We need to take it apart and put some of these stones here and dump the stones in the ocean. That is completely different level of pure evil. That is premeditated crime. It's not some accident. It's not just not caring. It's intentionally preventing humanity from finding their own origins and true history. That is an
mm,
absolute crime against humanity, nothing less, in my view. It's
mm.
absolutely criminal. And
And I've
yeah,
driven up there. I've driven up there and I've tried to find it. And the roads are all blocked off and I can't find it. And I'm going, why can't I find it? And then I find out that it's actually been dismantled and it's not there anymore. I'm thinking,
so
obviously must have been really powerful,
yeah,
that they don't want us to draw the energy from. Um, but I'll keep going because I've got a few more, if that's okay.
yeah.
And this is the Kincumber wetlands that we're actually actively trying to save. This is on the Central Coast. You can see how close it is to the water, and they want to put a Woolworths there. And this is the wetlands area that they'll destroy. So we've got a group meeting next Thursday, I think it is, the 28th, maybe it's Monday. but that's been advertised, and to try and get people there to go, you can't do this. But the Darkinjung Land Council own this land, and then they are leasing it to Woolworths. So we're appealing to Woolworths to not go ahead with it. Like, this is a really sacred space. And this is the Pilliga. This is a picture of the Pilliga, and I was actually there on the weekend, and you can see all the coal seam gas mining going along there. And they've been fighting up there to try and stop that. And these are, well, I found this picture of the standing stones, but I think this must be an old one, and all these stones aren't there anymore. You can't find them.
What site is it?
This is the standing stones in the northern rivers of New South Wales.
That's
So
all.
this was on somebody's property, and they told him to take them all down. Now, I put together a grandmothers to the grandmother tree to try and get some interest, and we did. We had about 40 grandmothers, included a few, single women and men. I didn't care. I said, come along. And we just showed love to the grandmother tree, and the love for the place. It really, you can feel the love of people for the area. This was one of the things we did that made front page of the local newspaper, raising awareness. There we were, and you can see how massive the tree is.
Yeah, definitely. It looked a lot smaller without context. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then we have Australia Day every year, and there's a trend to move away from Australia Day because it's kind of like, let's celebrate Captain Cook coming to Australia. And it's not something that a lot of us really want to celebrate. So we had like
Yeah,
a
we have
Unity
Columbus
Day, and
Day here.
yeah, and you can see we had about 500 people come, and we all walked in to the ceremonial area, and we had our original traditional bloodline custodians perform ceremony there for us. And we couldn't do it the next year because there would just be so many people. It would just trample down the area. So we had to not do that anymore. But you can see there's so much love for the place. These three beautiful ladies stood for council at the last elections. You can see Save Kariong on their shirts. They tried to raise awareness through standing up at the local council level. Lisa in the middle also stood for the state elections, and she missed out, but she's actually now standing again for our federal election that's coming up on the 3rd of May. And her platform is pretty much, we care, this is our home, let's love our community, put the environment back on the agenda, because this is our home. And she has, because we have preferential voting, you can talk to other candidates to see whether they will actually back you up with their policies as well. Lisa is the only one that's got the environment on her agenda. And she's feeling, oh, I won't win. I said, you just don't know enough. A lot of people have had enough. Like they can see what's going on, and she's really standing up. And I actually put on Lisa's launch not long ago just to help support her, and we're in the process of working out who will go to polling booths and hand out the leaflets or whatever. So the community are gathering around her, and she really does need a lot of support. She's funded all this herself. We have done some fundraising for her too, but this is so important because she's trying to keep the environment on the map, local farming, let's have our food labelled properly, all those grassroots things that, a lot of us still value. So, and I wanted to go into the Darkinjung Land Council now. And I just wanted to give you some facts because the Darkinjung Land Council is a local Aboriginal land council. And in, I think it was the 1980s that the government decided to create these land councils and allow our Aboriginal people to have some self-determination to make their own decisions. And for the Central Coast, we have about 320,000 people that live here. That's roughly our population. The Darkinjung Land Council have 800 members roundabout, and they make up less than 4% of the Aboriginal population on the Central Coast. Now, the Darkinjung Land Council have a board of 10 members, and they've been democratically elected by registered voting members of the local Aboriginal Land Council, and that's according to the 2025 annual report. Of note, I believe, that none of these elected members are traditional bloodline custodians of Guringai, Darkinjung, or Darkinjung. They are all people that have been born somewhere else. The Central Coast Council, the Department of Planning and Landcom, and Landcom is a government developer, all have memorandums of understandings with the Darkinjung Land Council. So they have agreements. And I actually have the memorandum of understanding between them. And I even had to go to through the Gympie Act, where I had to pay money to get the one from the Department of Planning. They didn't want to give that to me, but these are all pretty much government departments that are working hand in hand with the Darkinjung Land Council so they can achieve their goals. The Darkinjung Land Council developed Magenta Shores, which isn't far from me, and they saw with that development, Darkinjung claimed the land couldn't be developed because it was sacred, and they got it for quite cheap, and then they sold it to a developer called Mirvac for 42 million. So they're the largest private landholder on the Central Coast and are one of the richest developers in New South Wales. Under the tax, with their ABN, they're registered as a charity. So, and yeah, so the Darkinjung Land Council are working with government bodies. The government changed legislation so that the Crown land that should never be touched, which is C2 conservation, should never be touched. They changed legislation so that land councils could apply for Crown land and then be granted it. And then they have these developers, Landcom, and the Department of Planning and the Central Coast Council all working together to achieve the outcomes of the Land Council. The Land Council around here, Darkinjung, have almost 1,100 pieces of Crown land on the Central Coast, and they've been granted that. And Kariong development, we've been told, is the test case for the rezoning. And if the rezoning is approved and goes ahead, then all the others will follow the precedent of Kariong, and that this other 1,000 or so developments could occur. So this is really critical that we try and stop this as best we can. So they've put a proposal forward, and this is the proposal. You can see the Gosford Glyphs are down in this right-hand corner. So you can see how close this development is to the Gosford Glyphs and where these motorbikes are going to go and the push bikes are going to go through. Here's another view, and to the left you can see like a road and then more housing to the left of it. Those houses aren't there, but this is more of their planning that they have ready, that once they do this, they'll do that. A little bit more of the planning. So on the 3rd of May, we have our federal election. Our current Prime Minister is Labor government, is Anthony Albanese. And Anthony Albanese recently purchased a home on the Central Coast at the beautiful Copacabana Beach. The land councils were established in the 70s. The Central Coast is the gateway between Sydney and Newcastle, and Kariong is located like halfway between, and it's just off the major highway between Sydney and Newcastle. And they've started to create a 6 cities region, which does go down further south of Sydney as well. And that planning is already in motion. So it's like all these things are happening and we don't really have a say. And that's a picture of the 6 cities. This is part of the entry to where they want to develop it. It goes environmentally sensitive area, and they want to develop it. In 2020, there was a man that attempted to clear the land there. Then he was found to have lit a fire there. He was actually charged because he left his wallet there with all his identification. And pretty much he was charged a very minimal fine, not convicted, and it was never, the area was never regenerated either. So I think you can see a pattern here. I'll leave this. So during the submission process with the Department of Planning, that was early last year, we were putting submissions in through their portal to say whether we wanted the development to go ahead or not. And they started to lose our submissions. And we were supposed to get an acknowledgement to say, we've received your submission, thank you very much. There's one man that I know, he submitted his 10 times before he got an acknowledgement. There were a lot go missing. I rang up about it. They said, you can ring customer service and put in a verbal submission. They knew nothing about it. They extended the whole process for 2 more weeks. And basically they said there were 396 submissions, and we felt there would have been thousands. And at the moment, the New South Wales Ombudsman is actually investigating the Department of Planning because some of the outcomes of what people had concerns about on their website, they really have minimised it rather than really acknowledging the true nature of the issues that potentially exist in developing it. So we haven't heard an outcome on that yet. We're still waiting. And I have actually sent 2 letters to ICAC, which is the Independent Commission Against Corruption, asking them to look into things, and they don't even look into it. They just say, we don't have enough to investigate. And, I would have thought there was enough for them to start investigating, but they said no. So you can see we're trying lots of different things to try and get some kind of traction. The Ombudsman was the first thing that we got to actually say, yes, we'll look into it. So we were happy about that. This is something I found recently up there, and to me, this is a door.
Wow, yeah, I was just gonna say that reminds me of some doors in Egypt, honestly, or some of the like there's some doors in Egypt that seem like they are meant to look like they're natural bedrock, but they're actually seamed in there. I've shown in some of my recent films, actually. I don't know.
And I think that these, things will reveal themselves to you at the right time. And I was just walking past this and I've gone, oh, hang on a minute. That looks like a door, but it was way up high, so you wouldn't have really noticed it. But I looked at it twice, and even that handle looks like it's been used. So that's pretty much in the boundary area of where the Darkinjung want to develop. And this is something else that my friend Sarah found recently. She was up there when it was raining, and she turned and she saw this on the ground, and she took me up there a couple of weeks later and showed me. And we believe it's like a scatter man or a lightning man or a plasma man. And I have shown this to somebody, and they talked about etchings, but I said, this looks like it's actually got some kind of, like it's melted or some kind of compound on it. So this is also on the boundary of where Darkinjung want to develop. And we really need help in trying to get this identified and stopped, because if there are really important archaeological, historical pieces up there, then, we could perhaps stall it while the investigation takes place. So any help would be appreciated.
Mhm.
Did you put the compass on these for this cross in the middle? Until if you go again to put the
Didn't put the,
compass to see the
we can do
directions.
that the day. Yeah. We really haven't wanted people to know where it is right now. um, but I will go up. I have to go up next Monday, I think. So I can go up and do that. If I don't get to it Monday, I'll get there very soon to do that. So, these
And
are
this
two
starting,
things that I don't think,
is it near the door?
sorry?
Is this near
Yes.
to the door? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe
I
100
have
meters.
the, yes, as you said, close to the plasma man, but I think this is a picture of a scarab, and the scarab here means new beginning.
Oh, how
Yes.
interesting.
So,
Thank you.
but I need to make sure that these are I want to know this direction. Is it true north or different or what? That will confirm the story to know the direction of this cross in the middle.
Okay, so I can tell you this cross, can you see my cursor going across?
Yeah.
That's from east to west, and that would be south to north.
That perfect, sharp.
Like
Is it perfect?
Like what? Is it like southeast perfect or like southwest? Sorry, when we say east to west,
exact
is
or
it
just close to
exact
exact.
west
I would say
or was
pretty
it?
much. I would say pretty much
Because
that these
we are talking,
coordinates are,
so if we put this together with the gate, so this place could be a portal, and this is the sign for
doesn't
it.
surprise
Yeah, kind of
me.
like the false doors in Egypt
Does not
everywhere.
surprise me.
Hmm.
Don't forget, I'm
Yeah,
writing my second book, Stargates of Ancient Egypt. So this is part of the stories I'm talking about in my book.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll talk to you away from this about this particular glyph, and I'll find the coordinates and let you
Yes.
know. But this is like, where do we go to with this? What do we do? How do we get this attention for this so that we can actually um, get this looked at properly by the right people? Um,
yeah.
and that's where we're up to at the moment.
It does really remind
And
me of a lot of things just from a basic like Native American medicine wheel that is also representing the four directions, or almost like the Chicana of in Peru, the symbol. It's not really looks anything like this, but it's got similar types of patterns like a stepped pyramid um, that also represents the four directions and the path of the sun and stuff like that. But it also just has this, if you are talking about the four directions in any sense, and you have this cross hair in the middle, it's as if it's pinpointing a vortex point or a convergence of ley lines, like Mohammed said,
Yes.
what they call portal areas, where there's this thin spots in space time, if you want to think of it that way, or vortex energies and vortices all around that, if you want to call it that, but things where potentially there are openings to other dimensions or densities, things like that, is where these sacred
The
sites
idea
are.
here, if the coordinates are perfect, as I say, so this is what we can call it the landmark. Okay. This
mm,
is a point when you are sure that you are in a specific location. So when you give coordinates to others, or you want to do um, uh, like you want to travel or to move or to do anything. So you know they how do you call it? You know a specific point.
Yeah, a
Okay.
landmark for like
So
surveying. Mhm.
yes. So you know exactly where you are. So on any map or even contacting someone, so you can describe where you are if the coordinates are four cardinal directions. Okay, so if it gives this right coordinates, so we are talking about an important symbol, very important symbol.
And up in Kariong, where the Land Council now own the land, that's rich in other significant registered sacred sites and unregistered sacred sites that are known. There's a lot of them up there, and they're supposed to be caretakers of this land, and they want to come in with a bulldozer and flatten it. It's called cut and fill. That's what they've said they'll do. And it's so significant that we are doing absolutely everything that we can to try and help this land. Like there's endangered plants up there. There's the koalas up there that are endangered. We've put all these forward, all these key points forward in our submissions, and they've just minimised it so that they can just push this through. So anyway, I did put this here. That my friend Sarah was trying to make sense of this glyph when she found it. And she talked about the squatter band petroglyph that, has perhaps changed plasma physics. I don't know, but there's a resemblance here as well. But now that you've said it could be something else, then we'll look into that as well. I will try and close up now.
This picture.
Sorry?
Okay, I'm familiar with this picture. I know what you're talking about, but some symbols, they can give a double meaning, okay? Because some of these symbols were recognized by our early ancestors, like 9,000 BC and maybe a little bit before, as natural events and from the sun, from sometimes kind of electrostatic field around Earth. But as I keep saying, sometimes because of my expertise, I can tell you some are this way and some are different. Like here, I can see immediately in the middle a bird. So I know they are talking about Horus, the falcon. Some will say, why not another bird? Because I know the style of Horus. So here they want to male power getting higher level, so they talk about a little bit patriarchy. Okay. So the previous one, no, it's not.
It's not a squatter man.
No,
and
the
then
previous one, as I told you.
yeah, a scarab.
Keep going.
Yeah. Now, if anybody wants to help us, I've put here some email addresses of people that can be contacted. We've got the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, Paul Scully, and he makes the final decision regardless of what the recommendations have been on the submissions. He makes the final decision on yes or no. So they might recommend no and he can go yes. So, he's somebody
of Australia.
Yeah, possibly under these circumstances. And then you've got the Darkinjung Land Council. I mean, they've always got the chance to, withdraw this, and I would love to see them withdraw it. And I do understand that they do need to find housing as well, but there are other places they can put houses, not up there on this sacred land. You've got the regional planning panel that is still deliberating about the submissions and what they'll do. And then we've got our local politician, Liesl Tesh for Gosford. And we've got a video of her in State Parliament going, I feel really honoured to talk about this area at Kariong. And then she's turned around and gone, no, I agree that this area needs to be developed. So there's been a really big backflip. And I know personally I've tried to contact her and she hasn't got back to me. So she's agreed to this going ahead at Kariong. So it seems like there's an agenda and we've lost our democracy. We're not being heard. we're trying really hard to stand up for the voiceless land, this land that is, you know, so important, and it's happening all over the place. It's not just us. I know that. But Kariong has got something very, very sacred, and I've heard that what Kariong holds has got a significance for the whole planet. And I'm certainly trying to stand up to love the land and care for the land and honour the land and respect the land and try and keep it as it should be. So, if are you able to share those contacts, Trevor, at the end? And this is my final
Definitely.
slide. Join Coast Environmental Alliance on Facebook. We also shorten it to CEA, and this is where we put everything up to date about what's going on, and you know, any kind of press releases or anything that's going out. This is where we put it. So,
Wow.
that's the end of my presentation, and I'd like to really thank you, Trevor, for giving me the opportunity to speak, and Mohamed for really clarifying how important this area is. So, wow,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
huge.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Is amazing presentation and very, very important stuff, obviously, what you're sharing. And yeah, it's I think we've been going about 2 hours now, so it's probably a good point to wrap it up. But absolutely brilliant. That's all so time sensitive. Like you say, you've got this election coming up, May 3rd, you said. So that's
Yes.
one of the reasons I told Mohammed, I said, Vicky's got this really important stuff and it's really time sensitive too. And you understood and you said, yeah, okay, let's do this and see if we can make a difference. If we can help get your friend elected who can actually protect this, it would be an amazing victory. And it would maybe help a lot of Australians realize there's a need to step up and do this. I was going to ask you what you just presented, those last couple slides, is what can everyone else do? How can they get involved? They can write some letters, they can follow that group you just shared is perfect. So,
Mm. Oh, well,
um,
I'd love them to hound the minister that's going to make the decision and really let Darkinjung know, like, you know, this land is so important. So,
yeah,
so important. I can't understand. And that's 10 people on the board that are making the decision for the whole of the rest of the Central Coast, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Mm.
Have you ever, either of you ever seen the movie that's called Where the Green Ants Dream? Do you know that? So
Oh.
Werner Herzog film. Amazing. I don't know if you know Werner
Mhm.
Herzog. He makes these incredible films. He's absolutely visionary director. But he made this film. It's based in Australia, and it's about these originals. I'll be calling them that now because you said this. But it's about the traditions they have, and it's about it's absolutely you have both would probably really love it, appreciate it. It's about this struggle between them fighting these I forget if it was mining or something. These industries are moving into sacred land in Australia, and it's a region where they say the green ants dream. These green ants, they believe they dream the world into existence. So if these ants can't exist and live, then they believe the universe is going to stop existing because the green ants have to dream the universe into existence before it can come, to be. And such incredible battles of ideologies between, they're dealing with the contractors and the companies, and like you're saying, they're sitting down and just like being with the trees, being with these very important places. There was one part in that film that always sticks with me. This imagery is really wild. The men, there's one tree where the men are supposed to go, and they sit and under that tree and dream up their child. If they want to have a child, they have to imagine that child first by sitting by that tree and dreaming the child's existence before it can be born. And so powerful. The companies came in, they demolished all the land around this tree and they built a supermarket in it. And so you have these like original Aboriginal, these indigenous guys are just going and sitting in this one aisle in the supermarket because that's where the tree used to be. And they're sitting in like the milk aisle, dreaming their child into existence. And that, they've got this entire, just understanding of the world that's completely not comprehensible to these people that are after money and development and just want to, do these things that people in the Western world are like, oh, this is just what we do. We destroy things and put ugly buildings in their place. And so I don't know, that something about the imagery like that that he put in this film is really I don't know, it's very powerful stuff to see this and be like, I mean, it's incredibly sad. Like looking at some of these slides you're showing me right now, it's just like, ah, it's painful. And
Mm,
I know for you, it's even worse. Um,
mm.
but
And
anyways, it's really
Trevor,
beautiful.
I know that we live in an illusion. This is an illusion, and we really have to hold the energy for the good. We have to see it. If anyone out there can help me, help others, help us all, to just see this place remain as it is, true and timeless as it should be, that will also help us to try and save this place. So, um, I was really caught about whether I should stand up for this or not, or whether just to sit at home and just try and see it remain as it is. And I think it's time that we need to step forward and really um, put our love out there as much as we possibly can, in a variety of different ways to bring about the greater good. Because without our action in doing this, we're really allowing it to continue. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
guys, because I have to go,
Yeah, I just wanted to hand it over to you for
Vicky,
a second. Last thoughts.
Thank you.
you're doing great work, my friend, and you are trying to put a link between the ancient and the modern. What you are doing is not only for this generation, it is for the future generations, for nature also. So keep
Mm,
going. I will not keep an effort to support you. Anything you need, I will be happy to present it. So
mm,
yes, and you will win the battle against the evil or against the uh, um, materialized uh, conditions, trying to change everything to business, pure business. Okay. Me to my friend Trevor, you are doing great job these days.
mm,
Keep going. This
Thank you.
is a big story. Don't let it go. And
Yeah,
mm.
I wish you great luck and sending positive energy from Egypt.
yeah,
Thank you
thank you so
so
much.
much. Thank you. Much love to you. Thank you. And to you, Trevor. Mm,
Bye
Yeah,
bye,
thank
man.
you both so much. Very, very great stuff. So glad to talk with you both. And yeah, eventually we're gonna have to get you down to Australia, Mohammed. We're gonna work that out and yeah, do some
I
more
think I will
analysis.
apply to the visa maybe this summer. Okay. So I
Right.
will let you know. I think maybe next month when I finish my tours here in Egypt, I will apply for the visa. And as I told them, very positive, I will get the visa.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I
Mm.
hope it works out. All right.
Okay.
Thank you both so much. And
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Trevor. Thank you, Mohammed.